of the Golden Boot Podcast. It's your boy, Pooh Bear. I got Aunt Betty Murphy,
What's
Daniel T.
happening with
Williams, and Chris. You got a little light shirt on us? Nah, that's not Chris tonight, everybody. We have a special guest in the building. Not just a guy, but the guy, Preston Guy. Welcome to the Golden Boot, Preston. How you doing this evening?
What's good, guys? Thanks for having me.
Hey, we wouldn't have another guest, a better guest for our first time. We appreciate it. Um, a lot has happened going into this week. Spring football is at an all-time high. Things are humming, and we had some special guests this week. Coach Brian Kelly welcomed in our newest coach, possibly TM7, Tyrann Mathieu to practice. First off, thoughts. What did you guys think of all the press around Tyrann being there?
Yeah, so it's real cool to have alumni like Tyrann Mathieu around who are just such big names. And I mean, quite frankly, Tyrann Mathieu at this point is a bit of a legend. I think no doubt first ballot Hall of Fame career is what he's heading to. Super Bowl winner and his career at LSU. What always stands out to me looking back in retrospect, it just kind of stings like thinking about how in comparison to other Heisman seasons we've seen and non-Heisman seasons we've seen, how unspectacular Robert Griffin III's Heisman year was by comparison. I don't want to take it away. Like, great season, but compared to even guys like the Joe Burrow year, how there were three quarterbacks who each had a better season than him. We've seen so much of that. It's like, man, how did he not win the Heisman? That's my first thought with him is like, oh, he didn't even come close. And, that I've seen a lot of football. I've never seen a defensive performance that remarkable. It's insane. Second thought is, how special is it, LSU as a program, to have guys that you kicked off the team? You kicked him to the curb.
right?
You sent him home packing and cost him millions.
Yep.
And debate all you want about whether compliance was too strict or whether they didn't give him the support you want, all you want. But at the end of the day, you kicked him to the curb, and you know what? He loves this program.
Yeah.
And he hadn't said much of a negative thing since he left LSU. And now he's given $1 million to the program, got his face plastered all over everything. Good for him. Good situation. I think it says quite a bit about the program to have him there. Watching him at practice, that guy ain't watching like, an alum enjoying it. He looks like he wants to be a ball coach. So we'll see. I'm sure once he hangs up the helmet, he'll get the fast track to whatever he wants to do in his career.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree. And I think another thing that's very beneficial for LSU is the fact that he played for your defensive coordinator for the past couple seasons. So at the time when you're coming in spring training and you're working on installs and you're working on things of that nature, you got a guy who knows the vocabulary, who knows what Matt House wants. He knows how he's thinking. So you basically have another coach. Like, I know we're joking about the coach thing, but while he's there, he basically is a coach because he knows just as much as this coaching staff does about what Matt House wants to do with this defense. So you basically have a guy that the players are going to respect. The players are going to want to kind of take the knowledge that they can soak up from him. So having a guy who knows what Matt House wants to do, and he is that same guy that the players want to listen to, is a very big benefit for LSU.
For sure.
I would also say, Tyrann Mathieu, to a lot of those guys, even to myself, he's a living legend. A lot of those guys grew up watching him play, making help a whole bunch of plays for the most part. So just being able to talk to him and ask him questions and to pick his brain and him give them feedback, is awesome. And not only that, what Kelly is trying to bring back to LSU is the swagger. And why not bring the person who has all the swagger?
Well, have you seen his dance moves? I mean, I'd say the swagger's already there. Just if I see him on that 360 thing one more time, look, the drip, you gotta respect it.
Preston, stop it, bro.
Look, dog, you're the one sitting there talking about swagger and Brian Kelly, man. I mean, he's been described as a lot of things. I don't know people talking about his drip too much, but
No.
that Tesla he drives is pretty sweet.
Yeah, what I can tell you is, I mean, Kelly can dress. Kelly he got drip. You know what I'm saying? I like.
Yeah,
You know,
he
got a
is
nice.
drip,
He got a nice taste in cars and everything like that. You know,
Yeah.
he got it. But I did want to say something too about your comment about Tyrann. You said LSU kind of kicked him to the curve.
Not really, kind of. They did.
I wouldn't say they kicked him to the curve. You know, he kind of did some things himself. You know, for the most part. But
Sure.
the good thing about it, you know, he was able to come back, and not only that, be a prime example of, hey, you know, you can fall from grace, but at the same time, you get back, you focus up, and hey, you
Right.
can become the man again. So
Yeah, one of the best redemption stories in sports. for
Ever.
sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we actually
Absolutely.
talked about redemption and his redemption story week 1
Yep.
or episode 1 of our
Yeah.
podcast.
Yep.
So, and Preston kind of talked about it. Future and
Hey, can-
coaching.
hey, Pooh Bear, real quick.
Go ahead.
Hey, shout out to everybody in the chat. We see you. Yeah, we see y'all in there.
But yeah, hey, but like I was saying, future and coaching.
Oh, I mean, for sure.
So his speech, walking around the field, talking to the guys, his demeanor, it's just everything about him says he's going to be coaching in the hopefully. No offense to Coach Steeple or Coach Cooks, but if you got TM7 as an opportunity to be a coach, I'm going to give it a look. you know?
Well, why you definitely give it a look, but worth noting. I mean, it's not like LSU is going to hire him as their DB coach first job.
Right,
in the
right.
NFL.
Yeah,
He's gonna have to put in some dues. Maybe he comes as like some sort of assistant analyst type role, kind of like what Kevin Falk did, and work his way into it. But no doubt he's gonna have to, put in his dues. I mean, because playing and coaching, very different things. A lot of guys struggle to communicate. To them, these things came so naturally that they didn't know necessarily how to break it down to the basics and communicate that. And we'll just have to see if Tyrann does that. I'll tell you what, day one, he's going to have respect at the highest level of whoever he's coaching. And based on all his tweets and attitudes and all that good stuff, he's going to get into coaching, and whatever he chooses to do, he'll have the fast track to that. They're not going to, put him on the standard procedure to working his way up.
Right. All right.
Wait, let me ask you this, Preston. So if he doesn't come in as a DB coach, I mean, what do you bring him in as? Like a recruiting
analyst, off some
okay.
sort of off the field something. You can get creative with what you want. I mean, like Kevin Falk was like player personnel something, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you want, you would bring them in off the field. But I'm not even sure that LSU would be the only spot. There might be some schools interested in giving him a assistant coaching on the field coaching job as his first gig. And would he take an off the field over an on the field? We'll have to see.
And if I'm
does he
LSU,
have-
I'm
does
trying
he
to
have
wrap
it-
him up.
Does he have his master's? Can he come be a grad assistant?
I don't think he has his master's. I mean, yeah, he could be a grad assistant. I don't want to throw that out there, but
I'm
just saying some sort of something. Absolutely, yeah. They could find a spot for him for sure, but you're not going to hand a guy who's never coached down a football, an on the field position at a school like LSU. LSU's just too prestigious for stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, what is Ed Reed's title at Miami? Because I mean, he's like what, the wheel rim checker? Is your chain long enough, coach?
Yeah. He's
Listen,
got like that Matthew McConaughey title, like Minister of Culture. What?
listen, I don't. You whatever you, Tyrann Mathieu, whatever you need to be. We need to call you. Welcome. Welcome to the
You don't let Florida get him. That's all you do. You don't let Florida
Well,
take
You just call him 7 and just let him do whatever he wants to do.
him. Exactly.
But put it like this: if he ever does put together a resume where you really want him, I'm sure LSU will get him, no matter what.
Travis, that I'm not even going to even entertain.
Head coach.
Does he? Make a good head coach.
That's funny.
Now I tell you what, Miles is he looks great holding the clipboard. On to the next.
Wow.
Make good QB
You
coach.
say that, but look, man, I'm telling you,
back,
Miles
coach.
Brennan's going to get a chance to compete for the
He
starting
will.
job.
Oh, everybody's going to get a chance to compete.
Yeah, I mean,
You're going to get a chance, but I mean, can
no
you
one,
actually
no
step
one
up?
has this job locked up, and nobody's
That's-
locked out from this job either.
No, you're 100%. Nothing we trust.
Yeah,
So and that's what we trust. You stuck on
Look,
that
man,
Nuss.
Nuss has
stuck
an
on Nuss.
opportunity to compete for the starting job. I mean, the only one that would really surprise me is Walker Howard because of the the scenario. Now, it wouldn't surprise Walker Howard's actually your best quarterback on the roster. What
I
would
think he
surprise
is.
me is if they said, "Look, I don't care about the injuries. I don't care that you need to put on weight. I don't care that all that stuff," and they just said, "Get in there anyways." That would surprise me. But I could see Nuss. Nuss was very undisciplined last year. I mean, he was doing a lot of crazy stuff. I tweeted this maybe 50 times. It's like every single throw is 4th and 13, and you're down by 4 with a minute to go with him.
Exactly.
Why are you doing that crazy stuff? Just play fundamental football. Check down.
He's an all or nothing guy.
Yeah.
Honestly, and that's the thing. You don't want to take that away from him because that's what makes him great. But you kind of want to tame it a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm not saying don't be a gunslinger. Be a gunslinger, but dude, Brett Favre checked it down. You know what I mean? Like Brett Favre wasn't throwing for the fences on every single throw.
Hey, you remember that time that Nuss threw that behind the back pass against UCLA?
Nuss? No, that was all right. I see what you're saying. That was Max Johnson. Okay.
All right. Outside of Tyrann Mathieu, we also had Clyde came back and Thaddeus Moss. So I know that welcoming players back didn't happen much under Coach Miles. Ed kind of brought that back up. I'm happy to see. I'm happy to see that Coach Kelly is doing the same,
embracing some alma mater. Yeah.
How much does that do you guys think that helps with the the culture around LSU, around the locker room?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great thing for culture, especially with so much newness on this team. I was cracking jokes. I said, it seems like listening to media and people talking about it, I've heard more names stumbling than any other offseason yet, just because, like we've talked about on Spaces a few times, there's just under 50 new names and then a whole new coaching staff and Brad Davis, and there's just a lot of newness, and you really need something to embrace some cohesion for the team. So good for Kelly for embracing that, and good for LSU for having such a passionate alumni base. I've said this a number of times. I'm not certain there are half a dozen schools with the type of just passionate alumni base that LSU has. I mean, a lot of these guys graduate and they're huge fans for years to come, their entire life. I mean, all sorts of guys I talk to. Matt Mock watches every game still. Flynn, you hear him involved. We already know about Tyrann Mathieu, how passionate he is about it. They just kind of fall in love with their schools, and there's a lot of guys who are just there as a business transaction. They're there because it's mutually beneficial for both parties, and it doesn't seems like LSU certainly has a lot of alumni who aren't there for that reason, who are there passionately loving the school, and it shows when you have that kind of NFL presence there this weekend. So kudos to Coach Kelly for bringing in some cohesion there. It seems like he's a sharp fellow catching on to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I would also go ahead. My bad. Go ahead, bro.
I was just gonna say, he said cohesion, but I also think that whenever you got all these new coaches and a lot of new players, you bring in these alumni who know what the standard is for LSU football. You know what I mean? So you have them to kind of show and kind of let the players know that this is the standard. Like we know your coaches have a standard for you, but the former players have a standard for what this program should be. The last couple of years hasn't been that, so we want y'all to go back and set the standard for what it should be, and they're there to show what the standard is.
And not only that, look at the guys you're bringing back. You're bringing back Tyrann Mathieu, who was on that 2011 football team. Probably one of the best defensive teams of all time, as for sure for LSU. And then you bring back Clyde, who's on 2019, one of the best offensives that we've probably seen. So I mean that's great. But not only that, guys, does it look like Clyde kind of grew a little bit, or is Matt House just that short? Y'all see that? But now, man, it's good to see those guys, come back to LSU, and let everybody know, man. Look, we love our team. They're Louisiana guys also, and we want to see our team win. So big up to them.
All right. So speaking of, the team, Coach Kelly thinks he's doing. Preston, I know you've been fully involved with, a coaching regime that we had. We've all been around or had eyes on the last regime, and then now, differences in the coaching staff. And I know you kind of mentioned this, but attention to detail.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I'm gonna give two examples of things that really stand out to me. Now, watching these practice films, it's really difficult to tell one practice from another. It all kind of just looks like football, like that's a drill they're doing for balance. Okay, now they're working on that. What really kind of makes a difference in these things is where does the coach pull a player to the side and says, "Look, son, you're taking a false step there. Okay, you're going backwards. You already lost on your first step. You take a forward step there." Those little tiny things that make a dramatic difference in your player's performance. Just the little things like that. You don't really get that from watching the film. You don't really get that from being on the sideline. Although shout out to Coach Kelly for giving extended media access for the first time in 20 plus years, where we've had media actually out there for an entire practice. He elaborated that he's doing that so he can get a better feel for how the coaching staff does things and things of that matter. What stood out to me is the off the field discipline that he's being much more strict on. It seems like a core value of his is that if you're disciplined off the field, you're going to be disciplined on the field, and so on and so forth. So he wants it in all aspects of your life. It seems like he wants to build, great football players. You try to make you a better man and a football player. That seems to be a theme he's going for. On the field, like I said, it's hard for me myself to catch these details because it's never about the public, the drill, the whatever it may be. Seems like they're doing a lot more rotation than you typically would, but I also think that that's because everything's brand new. Who knows? Like, who really should be your starter? Who really should be the first guy? And you really need to mix things up a lot right now to figure out where guys fit. It's more of a necessity than a style, I think. Miles Brennan gave an answer in an interview. I think it was yesterday. Actually, it was yesterday. And he's talking about how he wasn't used to the head coach having that quarterbacking background, like offensive background. And he talked about how things like balance, footwork, arm delivery, just real nitty gritty details that I know for a fact no LSU football coach has been able to do for the last 15 years. No head coach, at least, in terms of like really teaching your quarterback some football things. And the things he were naming were pretty granular, small details. And in general, that's what Coach Kelly says he's really working on right now is fundamentals, core, nucleus of football, building your foundation, wrapping up on that tackle, taking the right step, understanding your coverage, making right decisions, and then they're going to open it up and get more advanced. So that's kind of what I've noticed is a lot more, first off, breadth of knowledge from the head coach, knowing more positions and more little things in football, like a quarterback's footwork. But secondly, also a stronger focus on the elementary details of football, which, sometimes get a little polished over as you try to move on to advanced scheme and attacking this system and pay tempo, those kind of things.
Yeah. I would also say too, I mean, winning a national championship and being great, that just doesn't just happen by coincidence. You have to be intentional about it. Whenever you talk about doing things right off the field, that's what makes great players, in my opinion. Once you do the little things well, and then everything else will be able to start to add up. You won't jump off sides. You'll pay attention to the guy's shoulder. You'll look at the ball. So yeah, I mean, I'm glad. We have lacked discipline. Especially the last two seasons. So it's good to see somebody get back in there who's going to, demand and expect great things from our guys, and hopefully, that transition to the football field.
This comment's got me triggered. Great question.
Yeah, I think when I say attention to detail, if you listen to any of the players talk about the SWAT team that Brian Kelly implemented for accountability, and just the just the things that on a day-to-day basis that they have to, they're required to do, do the questionnaire about your body. You got to make this meeting, got to make this meal, and you're penalized for every little thing. You're penalized that you don't do, and
Right.
so that's the attention to detail I was talking about. Because whenever you are in the game and it's fourth and one, and you need to make sure you don't jump off sides on the D line. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things, they don't just happen, in practice. They don't just happen when that week in practice or that day on game day. You have to instill all of that discipline, and that's the kind of things that he's doing with the SWAT team. And even the way they practice, Preston, that way he said that they're not practicing 2-3 hours. They're doing everything a short amount of time, trying to be efficient with everything that they do. That's the kind of habits you need to build to be a championship team.
And I would say just from watching the tempo of the practice too, man, they're moving.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're not wasting time. They're going from drill to drill. They're moving.
Everything's intentional though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and what another thing I noticed is that it seems to be a little more physical, a little more demanding of a practice. We all know Orgeron was famous for the not so intense practices, which he learned from Pete Carroll. There's an argument for freshness, and then there's also an argument for if you want
softness.
tough guys to know how to tackles and stuff like that. You know how you learn tackling? By tackling.
Exactly.
You're gonna have to be physical to a certain extent. Eventually something's going to show up. Now, I think when you got a team of dudes who know how to play football and you're ready to roll, and fresh legs probably become more important.
Right.
But this is spring. You got a lot of new dudes.
And not only that, you got a lot of young guys too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of young guys.
Look,
let me ask you this too, Preston. Whenever it comes to looking at, of course, you followed the team for a long time, and you've probably noticed in transition from strength coach to strength coach. Have the guys looked better than what they looked before? Shay Watt?
It's too soon to really give anybody credit on this.
Okay.
I'm not. I refuse to, because the fact of the matter is weight room is a years-long cycle to build guys. We'll know 4 years from now when that offensive line, when Fitzgerald West is an All-American, we'll know. Okay. When Emory Jones comes in and all that baby fat's gone and he's lean and healthy, we'll know. Okay.
Man,
but
I could look at a lot of those guys right now and I can tell, man, it's 3 months.
One who stands out in particular is John Emery. Dude's gotten built, man. He looks like a whole new player out there. Now, he's probably had a lot of time away from just to work out and get there. I just hope that quickness has stayed there, because he is a thick boy out there, and he looks like he can move, but looking like you can move in practice versus like when you strap it up for a scrimmage. We'll see.
Well, I'll say this too though. I think one of the biggest problems in the past few seasons under Moffitt wasn't necessarily the strength, but the conditioning. You know what I mean? With our guys being tired at the end of the games, at the beginning of the season and stuff like that, you really won't know how much, Jacob Flint has his handprint on this team until you kind of see how that kind of stuff plays out also.
Yeah. And then the mental toughness too. A lot of times, man, we're going against, those guys in the trenches of other SEC teams, and we're getting punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
People are tired of seeing that. You'll
have to see. And look, I'm gonna tell you, year one's gonna be you really cannot evaluate a strength and conditioning coach in 1 year. I mean, maybe something's going in a positive direction, but it's really unfair to judge it because these things just take so long.
That's like judging a recruiting class after 1 year, bro.
It's not even. It's worse than that, dude. It's way worse than a recruiting. Like, as a recruiting class, you can at least tell if there's some talent, if the dudes are doing some things. Like Derek Stingley Jr. year one was a pretty good. Like, okay, yeah, no, I guess they were right on him. But strength and conditioning it just takes so long to do anything, man. I'll say this, talking to Brian Driscoll, my guy who covered Notre Dame, he says Jacob Flint's real big into analytics and data and technology with this stuff. And I definitely think that's the direction you need to go with sports in general nowadays. If there's a study that says this particular exercise had this result, go into it, buy in,
Look, strength and conditioning, bro. I don't think it'd take 4 years, honestly, because guys, it takes you 3 months to get in football shape. You know, as someone who played college sports, it takes you 3 months. Once you get in shape, you know you're in shape. It don't take you 4 years. So I think whenever they line up the first game of the season, when we go against Florida State, and we can see what the trench is going to look like, the physicalness of it, those guys, you can already tell the difference. You just said it. John Emery, he looks great. He looks awesome. They've been busting it.
But do you think John Emery's progress was just the last, say, 90 days?
No, I mean,
Yeah,
he's had an entire season to get
Right.
ready. But I think with the spring, with the summertime, which is where champions are made in the summertime, once the first game of the season starts, I think then you'll be able to tell. I don't think it's going to take 4 years. I think you'll be able to tell whenever that first series, that first snap, you'll be able to know.
I think 4 years is too long, but I don't think the first series will be able to tell you either, because that goes back to my thing of that goes back to conditioning. Because the first snap against UCLA, they didn't look terrible, but by the fourth quarter they did, because they weren't conditioned. You know what I mean? So maybe by the end of the game you'll know something, but you know what I mean. You got to at least see what that conditioning looking like.
Man, in them trenches, bro. In them trenches, you know, you either gonna get hit, you either gonna be hitting them first, or they gonna hit you. That's what I'm talking about.
You can be doing that, then you can dance out at halftime. You know what I mean? So then you ain't got.
That's why you got a rotation. That's why you got a rotation.
That's why conditioning matters too. Hey, it's strength and conditioning. It ain't just strength, coach.
I feel you.
All right. So changes that we've seen, or what we said, attention to detail. Daniel saying strength and conditioning. Two that I saw that stand out: communication and autonomy. The autonomy between not having your head coach necessarily in every drill, in every position, is something that stood out to me. It makes me think about and I know y'all remember, Preston. You may know this one. If you don't want to have your producer all in the video dancing, come to Death Row. That's what stands out to me. But the autonomy. So that kind of leads to the next. What else is outside of coaching style? What's something that's standing out in film that you're seeing, maybe amongst the players?
You know, in film right now, it's just it's hard to tell. There definitely seems to be a high level of intensity, and I think that speaks to a lot of guys wanting to come out and prove something. I don't think there's anybody on this roster outside of Kayshon Boutte who could just sit out this year and have a high draft pick. I think that a lot of these dudes are looking to prove something, looking to earn something. Practices seem organized. There does seem to be a lot of, from the player interviews, a lot of small detail stuff they're working on. They're tackling right now, full tackling.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things that stand out to me as necessarily different. Like I said, practice film, no matter who the coach is, what regime it is, it kind of looks like practice film. So we'll have to see. I'm excited to see what they look like when they open it up and do some game type scrimmaging like the spring game. That's what I'm looking forward to see, is how it looks in a cohesive unit. They're also bouncing guys around a lot of rotation right now, because they're trying to figure out who's the guy, who's who.
Yeah. Well, look, I've seen some practice film, and let me tell you something. Jacqueline Roy, the 3-1A boy, looks amazing. All right.
I'm hoping this is the year. Hoping this is the year.
Whooping everybody's butt.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Him and Jacoby and Guillory.
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when you said 3-1A boy and you said Roy, I was like, he got to be talking about Guillory.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, but look, both of them are kind of in that same boat of highly recruited guys who've been serviceable, but we're really waiting for them to emerge as that guy, and we even saw flashes of Mason Smith being that guy last year. So I think the big boys in the trenches, you should be in good shape. We'll see which, who gets the starter spots, but you'll be able to rotate, no doubt.
Yeah, that's my thing, is the competition, bro. Almost at every position group, every position group has a competition right now.
There's very few jobs locked down. Very few.
So,
and I think that goes to what I was telling you earlier. a lot of guys are vying for a spot.
Exactly.
Nobody's got nothing locked down yet.
And that's what brings that intensity day in and day out. You know what I mean? Because everybody feels like if they slip up, if they had one bad day, then you know the next guy's right there at their heels. So they're bringing it day in and day out.
Man, I can also tell you, I know I've said in the past that, you know, it's very hard for a freshman offensive lineman to actually come in and start. But, man, watching Will Campbell in practice, kid looks good. He looks physical. You know, he is dominant. You know, but
sharp.
Quincy Wiggins, of course, everyone knows he looks great. But
look like he was good in the lab, man.
Yeah, he does. But I think his technique, I think he'll be hey, relax.
Jaquelin. Quaylen.
Not Jacqueline like everybody like to call him. Jaquelin.
Just call him Jackie.
Jacqueline.
Same thing, Jackie.
Oh man, that dude. All right, when he gonna jack you up. That's what all right, Preston. I appreciate you coming on. Our last topic that we're gonna talk about with you, the 3 transfers that we had this week. Josh White, Quentin Skinner. Quentin Skinner is a long snapper because I know some people are like, who?
Yeah.
And
the Buford dynasty ends.
Yeah, man.
And the one that's probably the most controversial, I tell you what, this name has been the most controversial for a walk-on that I've ever seen. Pig Cage.
Well, y'all saw the name itself actually started a Twitter feud. One of those Arkansas fans in the space. They're like, y'all calling this the Pig Cage?
It was
coming
like
after us Arkansas fans. It's like, dude, that's his name. No, that can't be. No, it's really Pig Cage. Here you go. I'll start with Pig Cage. He's the most entertaining. He's either a Heisman winner or never going to play his snap. You don't get in between. So look, that one kind of caught me off guard because I thought he played serviceably in the bowl game. I don't think he's a pure cover corner. I don't think he's an every down kind of guy, but I could see he had some real tenacity and some real grit to him. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to me like you could use him as a nickelback in some spots and get some action out of him. I suppose he must have had a talk with some defensive coaches about their plan with him, and it seemed to not align with what he was looking for himself. So decided to take another route. Quentin Skinner, you kind of saw that one coming when they brought in Slade Roy from Eastern Carolina. I mean, you're taking transfer long snappers. How many long snappers are you going to keep on the roster? You know what I mean? Like, all right, okay, 2 scholarship long snappers. Okay, I remember at the time when he signed Slade Roy, there wasn't a lot going on with recruiting for Brian Kelly at the time. A lot of people were like, "Are you kidding me? A long snapper? We got 50 roster spots to fill, and you're bringing in a long snapper? Come on, we already had a long snapper." So you kind of saw that one on the wall. Shout out to a decade of Buford High School long snappers at LSU coming to an end.
Buford, Georgia.
Yeah, and Josh White, they brought in a ton of backers. And the only thing I can think of is, he hadn't made too many plays in his time here and must have just gotten buried on the depth chart because there is a lot of bodies now at linebacker. They need some quality players to step up, like I expect Mike Jones will do fairly well at. Who? I don't know who. I've never heard of him. But Mike Jones. Guys like maybe Harold Perkins. I could see something like that. Getting scared off by a guy like Harold Perkins coming in and thinking maybe things are just going to get worse as he comes around, and I'm gonna just try my chances somewhere else because there's really no penalty for doing so.
Do y'all remember the day where we didn't have enough linebackers? So we had a bunch of linebackers the next year, then we didn't have enough D linemen. So we got a bunch of D linemen the next year, then we didn't have enough cornerbacks. So okay.
It's like Will Wade overcompensating for defense, right?
Kick the man while he's down, Dan. Kick the man while he's down.
Hey, that's one of my things I've been complaining about with the recruiting class under Coach O is the composition of your recruiting class. Yeah. You're not signing enough players of each class. Like I think every single recruiting class you should be able to field a football team with. You got 25 spots, go get your 22 and use the 3 extra spots to fluff some extra spots that you need some depth at.
Yeah, you
Well,
should
I
never
think
have a
too-
class with 2 offensive linemen or 2
I agree.
defensive
I
linemen.
agree. I think that's a terminable offense.
We had one offensive lineman sign 1 year.
Yeah.
One?
Yeah.
I think it was
one.
two.
I think it was. I think it was 2. Yeah, I think
Okay,
it was 2.
2. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that's
two,
correct.
and
Yeah,
they weren't like highly recruited guys either, right?
Right.
We're talking, a lot of like 3-star,
Mhm.
lower developmental,
Developmental guys.
yeah,
Yeah.
developmental guys is
I
how
want
we'll
to
say.
go back to Pierre Cage, man. Preston, that kid was never going to see the field. If he was to see the field next season, besides being on kickoff, we're in a bad position. We're in a bad position.
So what about like on a 3rd and short type 3 wide
up by
package
5
running,
touchdowns
and you want to
in the
get an
fourth quarter.
aggressive blitzer?
Well, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Dan. Let me ask you this. Since there was an open competition, if he would have beat out somebody, do you still feel like he should, just because he was a walk-on? Like,
If he would have beat out somebody, but it's apparent that he felt like he wasn't going to beat out anyone.
is that the
That's why
case,
he
or
transferred.
is that the case?
It was also apparent he didn't.
He wanted
have
a scholarship. He wanted a
division-
scholarship.
It was apparent that at this point in time he did not have the coverage skills ready to be like on an island with SEC receivers.
I understand.
I think that was pretty apparent in the bowl game, and he was going to have to grind and earn it and wait and do some stuff. And I think honestly, his decision came down to a talk with him and Matt House and said, "Coach, are you planning on doing any kind of schemes where you're going to have a blitzing nickelback looking to cause chaos?" And he was probably like, "Honestly, no. And if we did, probably not you. So it might be in your best interest to go somewhere." He might also have, wanted to go somewhere to earn a scholarship.
Well,
Maybe another school's willing to pay for him at this time.
That's
Well,
what I
when
think
you
it was,
say-
because he was a walk-on last year. You know what I mean, and having to pay for yourself
Yeah.
for 2 years in a row. I think,
But it's
that's what it was.
April. It's April, guys. Why not finish spring? Why not finish spring? Why not play on TV?
Right.
Get you some more film. Because you can't enroll at any school.
Let me ask
now.
you though, realistically, how many of these transfer announcements actually make a ton of sense to you? And I'm gonna
No.
tell you this: a lot of times,
right
like I
now.
remember, who was that defensive end? Jordan Allen, who transferred. He was there for 1 week of spring practice, and he noticed this ain't going the way I wanted to go. So
Right.
once you make that decision, go. Like once you've realized that you need to go somewhere else, you just make it. So
Yeah.
that's why so many of these transfer decisions, very rarely does the timing make sense. It's just more times than not, it's kind of like, oh, you did that this week? Oh,
Yeah.
like
But
that
I'm only saying
Bama
that-
quarterback a couple years back transferred after week 2.
Yeah. But I'm only saying it for scholarship, the scholarship argument. Like if he was that in need of a scholarship, you don't transfer in April.
I mean, maybe
Unless after that first week of practice, it didn't go the way you want, and your talks with coaches didn't go the way you want, and it didn't look like you were going to be able to earn one at LSU. So go ahead
a
and
month.
or you can go ahead and enter
Hey,
your name.
why
in the-
wait a month if you
or
know
you
after
can-
a week?
or you can go ahead and enter your name in the portal and start just having conversations with other coaches who and kind of beat everybody else to the punch, and you know what I mean, and kind of have your name out there before everybody else.
Not
does.
to mention, I
makes
mean, if you get somewhere, say next week, you get to participate in their spring ball.
I
mean-
think you can do that.
Why not?
I mean, because
It's not like it's an NCAA
enroll?
event. Anybody gets to participate in spring ball.
Yeah, but can you enroll? You can't enroll in the school right now, though.
I think some of those West Coast schools are.
Yeah, it depends on if they're on the.
Depends on quite a
if-
bit. I don't know.
If they're like, it depends on a whole bunch of stuff. They're a quarter system. If they're,
That's
all
what
kind
I'm
of stuff.
thinking. Yeah.
It's all kind of stuff that it comes down to.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, Preston, we appreciate having you. Having
Yes,
you on,
sir.
coming on, talking with us. We'll have to bring you back sometime, and we'll definitely be
And
ready.
it makes up for beating us in the playoffs, bro.
You're welcome, man. I hope you enjoyed extra time with your family in December of 2008.
Now it just made me go to basketball.
Hold up,
practice.
wait.
Ah, this guy right here. I should have never said
Hey,
that. Now you're finna
Hey, he
rub
need
me
to
in.
send us that helmet.
You ain't lying. That'll really back up for
And
it.
you want to see something?
Oh, this guy got a class ring.
There ain't no class ring now. You wouldn't know about what these are because you lost. But
That's right.
ooh, look at that boy.
What is that?
What's that? Ooh, that looks like a
You
state
played at
championship
Taylor's
ring.
Catholic?
No, he went to Holy
Look at that.
Cross.
See, that's the dome. I know you don't recognize it, but that's the Superdome on the side
'cause-
there.
Yeah. He went to
Preston,
Christian
what
Ring,
position
Life.
you
buddy.
played? Preston,
He
what
was-
position you played?
I
He
was
was
offensive tackle.
Oh man, get out of here.
1-8. Hey, who else has one? Who else has one? I'll wait for yours.
All right.
Yeah,
Can't
yeah.
hate hey, what's that
Are
thing
we
about
done
the
with
club?
Preston? Are we done
You
with Preston?
can't hate on us in the club. You ain't even in. You're on the outside.
On that note,
All right.
That's real.
I'm just
Thank you
I'm just
again.
messing
I
with you,
appreciate
man.
it though, bro. Appreciate
Much
it.
love, man.
Thank you,
Yeah,
man.
so.
All right.
Have a good one. Hey, send us that helmet.
Look, man, it goes to the highest bidder.
All right. All right. So now we talked to football with Preston. Again, thank you, Preston, for coming on. Let's move on to some basketball. Coach McMahon has he's made his mark. He has brought in 3, let me count them, 3 new players. We started off with Kendall Coleman, freshman out of Northwestern State. He was the first signee of the McMahon era. 6'8", 220 center, averaged 15.4 points per game on 54.6% shooting and 10.1 rebounds. Initially, when I saw this, I was like, it's Northwestern State. But then I went and looked at who he played. They played Oklahoma. They played LSU. They played I forget. I want to say La Tech. They were playing the big boys, and he was putting up double doubles
Put up a
against
double on us.
on us, and I want to say he had like 20 and 10 against Oklahoma. Big get at the time. Another player that came in, Justice Hill. I'm sorry, I said 3. It was actually 4. Justice Hill. Sophomore, 6 foot, 170 guard, Murray State transfer following Coach McMahon here. He averaged 13.4 on 43% shooting and 5 assists per game. I think he's a leading scorer on it, or one of the leading scorers on that team. And then you have Trey Hannibal, a sophomore, 6'2", 220 point guard. Another Murray State transfer. He was 9.2 points per game on 51.9% shooting, 5.1 rebounds, and 2.5 assists per game. And then the first high schooler that we got is Cornelius Williams. He's a 6'10", 195 center from Moravia Prep out of Hickory, North Carolina.
Put that boy in the gym now.
In the cafeteria. What you talking about?
We're gonna put him on that Miles Brennan dietary plan.
Seafood diet.
Get him up. But 4 big players came in. We've got a lot of veteran presence, and we got a big potential guy coming in. But the transfer portal giveth, and the transfer portal taketh away.
Yeah.
All the scholarship players that had eligibility.
Yeah, that ain't even close. The transfer portal took a lot more than it giveth.
They're gone. We talked about week 1.
Everybody.
We talked about this literally because of our first episode. I keep saying week 1. Our first episode, we talked about who would stay, and I remember saying that the only player who has a tie to LSU outside of Will Wade was Sharif, and Sharif entered his name. He kind of flirted with the idea of he may come back, but yeah, and Parker Edwards is all we have.
Hey, that's what I said, bro. Parker Edwards starting for us next year at this point.
Man, let me tell you something. Have we ever seen anything like this before? Like ever. The entire team is like, I'm gone. Does that not scare y'all?
I'm not, and I'm gonna tell you the only reason I'm not scared. 3 years ago, well, probably about 4 years ago, I probably would have been scared with the transfer portal. I'm not.
Well,
Facts.
The reason why I say that too, a lot of people question McCone his recruiting. Can he
McMahon.
recruit? Whatever, McMahon.
You kill everybody name.
I am, bro. God,
If mama named him McMahon, I'm gonna call him McMahon.
Look, CTE. I played a lot of football. You know, my head hurt. No, but dude, I mean, I'm scared. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want to scare anybody, but can he recruit? You know, can you not even get some of the bench guys to stay for depth? You know what I'm saying? We're having to go to Northwestern State to get players to come to LSU.
Yeah. Are we having to, or did we choose to?
Well, we chose to. I'm guessing. But still, I mean,
let me say something here. All right, Justice Hill, aka Juice Hill.
Yeah.
You know what he committed to out of high school?
Nah.
Arkansas.
Okay.
So for those who saying that McMahon can't recruit, he had an SEC caliber guard on his team.
Also, the Hannibal guy. Hannibal played at South Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know what I mean? So he now he might have to go through the transfer portal. Juice Hill ended up going JUCO, so you know he might have to go that route to get him, but he still brought him to Murray State. Yeah. You know what I mean? So let's not act like just because. And I get what you're saying though. You know, you expected him to be able to, a guy like Alex Fudge or you know Jarrell Colbert or somebody. You would expect him to get them to stay with the promise of playing time, but I think these guys want a fresh start. You know what I mean? Like we always look at it from a program's perspective of wanting a fresh start, but these players probably want a fresh start too. Do they want to play here knowing that they probably won't be able to be in the postseason next year? Like, you know what I mean? Like I think that factors into some of it. And some of it, I mean, like they came here not for the school, but for the coaches, and there's a whole new coaching staff. So we got to look at that also. But I think McMahon will be able to bring in quality recruits, and I think he's already shown he's able to do that with these 3 of the 4 of these guys he's already brought in so far. I think we got to give him time, just like Brian Kelly. When Brian Kelly first took over the job, everybody said he's got such a big task in front of him. There's no way LSU would we were 40th in recruiting or something like that. And then he got us to a top 6 class. So, I mean, I think we got to just be patient and let McMahon work the portal, let him work the process. And, yeah, the first year might be rough, but I'm not too worried about it because I'm giving McMahon a leash. I'm giving him, you know, that 7-8 years to see what he can do. And I'm not judging him off the first few years of his team.
Yeah, I'm not going to judge him off the first 3. But, yeah.
Okay. And you brought up the transfer portal. We talked about this week 1, episode 1. Daniel, you asked this question. And it's all seems to tie in together. Is the transfer portal hurting high school athletes coming out?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, but the fact of the matter is it is hurting them because some of these schools aren't going the high school route; they're going transfer portal route, but that just opens up more opportunities for high school kids elsewhere. So they are being hurt because, let's say, a school like Louisiana Tech or ULM, they might be going strictly transfers or, you know, majority of their class transfers. But that means a school like Northwestern State or, McNeese or somebody like that has less players on their team because their best guys transfer out. So they have to take more high school kids. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, it hurts them in the sense that they might not be able to go to the P5 schools right out of high school. But I think that they're not completely hurt because it just changes their journey. They have to go to a smaller school first, then use the same transfer portal, and then take them where they want to go.
Yeah, I think like I 100% agree with that. I think it does not hurt the elite high school players.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Where it hurts the guys who are just right on the cuffs. The
like developmental guys.
Exactly. The Justin Jeffersons. You know what I'm saying? A lot of those guys, those 3-star guys. I think it kind of hurts them. But for the most part, it sucks to be them right now. A lot of those kids that dream about going to LSU right out of high school and signing and putting on that hat, to say, hey, this is where I'm going. So it does suck. But at the same time, whenever you are in a position like LSU, it's a great thing because you can go rebuild a team really quick. It's just like free agency. in the NFL. So it's a yin and the yang. You know, it can
And
be good and it can be bad.
well, let me ask you this, and I know this is something that we've said. I know as fans of the smaller schools, Louisiana Tech type schools, I know it's something that some of them people have said when it comes to recruiting. Like, why would a guy go sit the bench at LSU, for 2 years or whatever, when he could go to Tech and start immediately?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what some of these high school kids are kind of facing. You know what I mean? Like, and not that it's their choice. You know what I mean? Like, they would rather go to LSU where they would have to sit the bench for a few years. But because the transfer portal is kind of messing with some of those numbers, they have to go this other route where they do get the chance to play right away. So I think that sometimes they think it might be hurting them, but it's actually to their benefit because they're getting immediate playing time and they're actually developing better than they would sitting on the bench at a bigger school.
That's right. I agree.
So, do we see more St. Peter's? Now that you've got these guys, these transfers that are or the bigger schools picking up transfers, and you have more high school guys go into smaller schools. And
when you say St. Peter's, what do you mean by that?
St. Peter's was a different story because they didn't have a ranked player on their team. You know what I mean? So I don't think that right there. Yeah. I don't think that right there. I don't think that right there will ever happen again, bro. You know what I mean?
And when I say St. Peter's, what I'm really saying is
a team with no player ranked coming out of high school make the Sweet 16.
I think it'll happen.
I think this is what I'll say. When I say St. Peter's, I mean more of the
not parity. Traditional powerhouse.
Yeah, not traditional. You see more parity.
Okay, well,
and I understand what you're saying. And first of all, shout out to Shaheen Holloway. Yeah. And congrats on the job at Seton Hall, or getting the job at Seton Hall. I don't know. I know this is not where we were going with this, but first of all, you have to know the respect that you have garnered from your players when all 15 of your players show up to your press conference at your new school.
Yeah, that's dope.
To cheer you on. So, what I mean, because I wasn't even planning on going this way with this, but what I think I'm saying or looking at is you've got more high schoolers probably go, because like Daniel said, they don't go to the Blue Bloods. So now they're not necessarily quote unquote the guy, and they stay and they develop. And they stay 3 years and develop. And they get there, and now these teams are got this more cohesion, and they make a postseason push.
I don't think I get what you're saying, and you might see a few of them, but I think what's more likely to happen is a Michigan State from last year in football, where you see a team come out of nowhere because they completely overhauled their team with nothing but transfers. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? I think you'll see now. You will see some of these lower level schools, have a team full of seniors, who stuck together, or upperclassmen who stuck together, didn't transfer out and try to make like a Cincinnati type run. You know what I mean? But I think more of those guys are going to go to the bigger schools, and that's going to end up having the Michigan States where teams just go fill up their roster full of transfers and on a year by year basis, pretty much.
I think it makes a difference whenever you're talking basketball and when you're talking football. I think it's a lot easier to compete whenever you're talking basketball.
Yeah, because you just got to do it for 1 year. You don't got to, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Only 5 guys on the court, you know what I'm saying? In basketball, one guy can have a much larger impact than just, in football. So I think in football, you do get a situation kind of like what you're saying about Michigan State, where, man, you can win a lot of football games. But whenever it is time to compete with those teams like Ohio State, those teams like Alabama, who every year they have those 5-star guys just circulating, it's going to be hard. You know what I'm saying?
Well, see, that's the difference between Alabama and Michigan State. Alabama is one of them teams that has the luxury of being able to get high school guys and sit them on the bench for 3 years. So they got 5-star guys from top to bottom. But Michigan State just brought in enough 5 stars through the transfer portal to fill a starting roster. So whenever it comes down to the second and third string, Alabama still got talent, and it ain't even close to what Michigan State's got. You know what I mean?
Then at the same time, Michigan State is playing in the Big Ten too. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have my SEC bias, but
taking shots at everybody tonight.
Hey, I am boom, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's the Big Ten, and we're talking about the SEC. You know what I'm saying? So
And speaking of transfers, how about that baseball transfer, Jobert?
So we ready to talk baseball? Well, hold on.
We can't talk baseball yet. All right, my bad.
Can't talk baseball. You
I
jumped
jumped
the
the
gun.
gun. I jumped the
All
gun.
right.
My bad.
So this week, Coach Kim Mulkey received AP Coach of the Year. Congratulations. Well deserved. She got. We all feel like she got snubbed for the SEC Coach of the Year.
Thanks.
But she did win the AP Coach of the Year. It kind of makes you feel. Does that even make sense logically?
No.
But
I think I said that on the first episode. Like, what happened? What's gonna happen if she wins that and didn't get the SEC one? You know what I mean? And it's kind of like whenever I think I said this too when Bo Nix got SEC Freshman of the Year, and then Derek Stingley got the AP Freshman All-American. You know what I mean?
Yeah, same situation. Yeah,
yeah. So, one thing, and you know what? I'm gonna just tease this. We're not gonna stay here. Coach Tamika Reed at Jackson State received 0 votes.
Disrespected.
I'm gonna just tease that. We'll talk about that more on the HBCU hour this week. All right. Now let's talk some baseball. All right. We had a big midweek win. It was big not because of who the opponent was, but big.
Hey, chill out. No ULM slander will be tolerated.
It was. I mean, it ain't the Yankees or nothing like that, but
ULM slander will be tolerated.
But it was a big week, midweek win. We did see the success from the Florida series carry over. The hitting, the defense stayed the same. It seemed like the movement of K, Doty was the answer.
Swapping Doty and Thompson. Yeah.
It seemed like that was the answer. Then Auburn came to town. Lost the series 2-1. We actually probably should have swept that series.
Disrespectful. We'll put that comment in disrespectful.
We probably should have. We should have swept that series. We had that bad 6th inning against Auburn on game 1. And then in game 3, we fell apart in I want to say it was the 7th inning because we made a push, made a comeback, got within 2, and it just fell apart. Thoughts? Any thoughts?
This y'all.
Yeah, I think I agree going into the Florida series midweek game, going into the Auburn series. Everybody thought we had figured it. Jay Johnson figured it out. He pressed the right buttons he needed to press to kind of get this thing back on track. And then that first game you had, it was a game. And then Trey Morgan makes you want to call it an error. He didn't get ruled an error, but he makes the play where he doesn't pitch the first, and then a 3-run homer follows that, and then the next thing you know that's pretty much the ball game. That came out game 2, and kind of reestablished what we saw against Florida, and then the midweek playing what we thought would be LSU baseball, and then it seemed like it was just the up and down series. Couldn't get right, and so. Game 3 was pretty much more of what game 1 was. You know what I mean? Just that one bad inning or two, and you just couldn't recover from it. Couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. All the things that kind of have plagued this team all season. So I think it's very fixable. The problems with this team, it's stuff like hitting with runners in scoring position. It's making routine plays and not having those errors that turn into 3-4 run innings, and it's small things like that, and pitching, you know what I mean, and kind of figuring out the rotation and when to leave a guy in, when to pull a guy, all these kind of things. So I think we'll be okay. I don't want to over exaggerate too much, but at the same time, he's running out of time to figure it out for this season. So we got to figure out something soon, or we might be missing out on that super regional Omaha run like a lot of people thought we would be on.
Yeah. So I will say this. I know you touched on the lack of offense at the right time. I want to say that the biggest issue I've seen is defense. Anytime we have a game where there's a bunch of errors, we have, or not even a bunch of errors, we have 2 errors, and that you can pretty much call a ball game. It's a trickle down effect. It really starts to eat away at this team. Then you start seeing hitting starts to lack. You start seeing the pitching start to fall behind. They get behind on batters, and it just turns ugly really quick. But we don't have to stay there long. I'm not going to, beat a dead horse. It's a lot of base. We keep saying this, but it's starting to, I'm wondering if it's going to stay true. It's a lot of baseball left to play, and as you said, we do got to figure this out soon. Moving on, let's go to some NFL talk. Big news: Bruce Arians announces his retirement.
Boy, Tom Brady got him out of there.
It was he announced his retirement. And initially, when it first happened, the timing of it, the first thing I said was either there's a scandal or there's health problems.
Got some emails. Somebody got some emails on.
Hey, we gonna get there. I was gonna say fraternity suit. We'll get there. But the timing, he did kind of, Bruce Arians did kind of allude to and talk about it. He kind of did this strategically to give, basically, to keep the coaching staff together. If we would have retired prior to, the coaching staff would have probably been dismantled. He also was able to hand pick his replacement, basically, in Todd Bowles, who, as we know, a lot of times black head coaches don't get another chance, or it takes years before they get a second shot. And Todd Bowles gets this chance now. And plus, his first stint was with the Jets?
Correct. With Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's not fair. That's not fair. You can't. They're awful. The Jets are. I don't think anybody's been able to win with the Jets since Parcells. But nope, Rex Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay, but again, the timing of it. Thoughts though on the retirement. There were, the strategy of it, everything.
I go first, man. I would. It's crazy. As soon as Tom Brady comes back, Bruce got to go. Bruce is out the door. I don't think Tom Brady, of course, we know he's one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. We know he likes winning Super Bowls. And I don't think he liked pretty much getting his butt kicked last year in the playoffs. And we know the way Bruce Arians runs his team is not what Tom Brady is used to, right? So I do believe that potentially it could have been some nerves there between those two. Not saying that it was. I don't know anything, but just saying that possibly, he kind of like Bowles. Of course they coach together, or they've been around each other in New England, so he likes the way he run things. Tampa Bay is like, hey, we want to win another Super Bowl, or at least try to get there. Why not bring Tom Brady back? Okay, we got Tom Brady back. Bruce, Tom Brady don't like you too much. You got to go. That's just my opinion. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I respect what I'm taking him at his word, and if that is what happened, and that's the way it went down, I got to commend Bruce Arians for that. For him, thinking about the rest of his staff and how him being fired or retiring at the end of the year versus him stepping down now and allowing them to retain their positions, I think that was a very commendable thing for him to do, and a lot of coaches wouldn't even think about their staff that way. So I think that kind of shows the way he feels about his staff and the relationship they have. And I do want to give him credit for this too. He was, if you look at his staff, it's a very, very, very high number of minorities on his staff. So I want to give him credit for, being a pioneer in that sense.
Yeah, very, very diverse staff.
Yeah, and not just, not just quitting or retiring and not, leaving them out in a bad situation. So,
all right. Also, Devontae Parker, basically, I don't know if he even had a chance. I think his bags was, pretty much packed. The U-Haul was at the door, and he's headed to New England. With Tyron, I think we already saw that coming, though.
They've been trying to trade that man for 3 years now.
Yeah, I mean, you got Tyreek Hill now, and you've got Waddle in there. You've got Tua throwing the ball or whatever he does.
Hey, they're gonna lead the league in bubble screens and tunnel screens and quick slants.
Shuttle passes.
Shuttle passes. They're gonna be playing flag football out there.
Yeah, right.
Miami is speaking of Miami. I guess the money they're not paying Devontae Parker, they decide to put elsewhere because Xavier Howard signed the largest contract for a cornerback. He signs for $50.6 million guaranteed.
Well, you remember right before they signed him, one of the other cornerbacks took a restructure. You know what I mean? So I think the boys in Miami, they don't mind taking a little less to see, the team do what they need to do to try to compete. So if that is the case, and that's the kind of mindset that they have, that if they get the quarterback situation right, that team got some pieces.
Yeah. Dan, you want to touch on this before I move to this next one? Because these next two might stir up some
y'all know I like controversy, so let's.
So I kind of briefly mentioned it, but Jerry Jones is he ended up paying Dallas Cowboys he ended up paying $3 million to a what has just been described as a woman in a paternity suit.
Yeah, I heard about that. Hey, maybe they should hire her to come run the Cowboys. She might could do better than what they're doing now.
I mean, Jerry
didn't inherit it.
I mean, as far as I know, this is the first time I ever heard Jerry Jones actually paying somebody.
Dang.
Oh, wow.
But next, Michigan's Pro Day. I know we don't usually talk, but did y'all happen to catch Michigan's Pro Day?
Yeah, I saw the halftime performance.
Okay, so
I didn't watch the game. I just watched, what they had at halftime.
With fireworks.
If you want to call it fireworks.
No. So for Michigan's halftime, not halftime, but Michigan had coaches Jim Harbaugh, who used to coach for San Francisco 49ers, and he had a quarterback at the 49ers that helped that got them to the Super Bowl.
You say you like controversy. He's probably the most controversial quarterback they ever played.
Yeah. Colin Kaepernick came out and threw at Michigan's Pro Day. Yeah. And says he wants to play again.
Yeah. Salute to Harbaugh, man. Big salute, man.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know where he could go, honestly. I think he's probably good. First of all, let me say this. I think he's probably more talented than half the backups all backups in the NFL. And probably
he better than Taysom Hill.
Damn sure, man. I mean, it was definitely better than Taysom Hill.
I say this though.
Andy Dalton.
I say this. I say that. I think the difference with him, and I'm not saying that he don't deserve a spot by any means. I'm just saying the difference with him and the difference between all them dudes you just named is that if you sign Colin Kaepernick, you're gonna have the backup quarterback doing just as much media as the starting quarterback. You're gonna have, he's gonna pretty much be just as big of a media guy on the team as all the star players. And
sound like a Tim Tebow situation.
Exactly what a Tim Tebow situation is. But the difference is Tim Tebow ain't really got a shot. You know what I mean? The only person who gave him a shot was Urban Meyer. And come on, like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know the Patriots brought him in, but he never really lasted. And I don't know And
But they
I
did
don't
bring him
know.
in though.
Yeah, for tight end, they didn't bring him in at quarterback.
Right.
And so is Kaepernick? You know what I mean?
Jacksonville gave him a shot, and
At tight end, you know
at
what I
tight
mean. So
end,
it's
yeah.
like
So
I think Tebow's situation that is very comparable, but he switched positions for him to get a shot. I don't know if any team is going to be like, yeah, I'll be willing to bring in this guy as to compete for my backup quarterback position. And I don't want to use the word that somebody in the comments used, but they gonna look at it as a distraction.
No,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
Please let me go, Pooh.
Go ahead.
All right. You can't say that in a light, yes, Tim Tebow and Colin Kaepernick, it is comparable to the media aspect of it. But Tim Tebow was brought in as a tight end, right? Tim Tebow never played tight end a day in his life. He's only played quarterback. That's not even Colin Kaepernick was a Super Bowl winning QB, right? Didn't he win a
He
Super
didn't-
Bowl?
No, he made the
He
Super
won it,
Bowl, but
but
they
he
lost.
played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he did.
Played in the
Correct.
Super Bowl.
Correct.
Colin Kaepernick has more talent from a QB position than Tebow does in his left pinky. You get what I'm saying? Like it's not fair. Of course, life isn't fair, but the fact that Tim Tebow does get a shot and Colin Kaepernick does not get a shot, and we know he can ball. We know he can play.
I would agree with you if Tim Tebow got his shot at quarterback, but
He got his shot at tight end, and he never played tight end a day in his life in the NFL.
I understand that, but I mean, neither did Taysom Hill. And Taysom Hill moved to tight end. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the fact that he switched positions is the reason why he got a shot. Nobody was giving Tebow a shot at quarterback, just like it seems like nobody's giving Kaepernick a shot at quarterback.
Okay, well, look, I want to go play fullback in the NFL.
If somebody willing to give you a shot, go ahead.
I got another one for you since we, and this will go. What's my guy? For the Panthers. Cam Newton. Cam Newton.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but he came out with in an interview and said that the reason why the Patriots had to let him go is because he was going to be too big of a distraction
to be the backup.
So I can kind of see the too big. As a backup, you don't want to be, because that's a lot of pressure on the coach to say. Yeah, okay. So let me ask this, and to Daniel, to your point, who is the onus on? Then is it on the player? If the player is quote unquote a distraction, he's too big. Is that that's ticket sales, right? I mean, that's attention.
Is it? He's polarizing though. You know what I mean? So in the same way he might bring people to your organization, he could cause some people, you know what I mean, to boycott, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that you got to look at that aspect of it too. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with any of this. I'm just, looking at it from that franchise's perspective. I mean, yeah, a lot of people would probably come buy tickets, but you'd have some people who would stop coming and stop supporting. So is it worth it? You know what I mean? And then at the same time, like you say, as far as him being a distraction, it's not Kaepernick's fault. He's a distraction. Mm-hmm. It's the media's fault. But you don't tell the media that they can't cover, you know what I mean, like a player neither. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know what you do in that situation to make him not be a distraction. You could limit your interviews and all that, limit his availability. But then all you would have the media asking the coach the questions that they're not able to ask Colin. You know what I'm saying? Like they get their answers one way or another. And that's whenever it becomes a distraction, whenever the coach is answering questions about the backup quarterback and not about the starting quarterback. You get what I'm saying?
I think this comment here is interesting.
That's facts. Yeah. That's my boy Xavier. He 100% facts on that one.
No, I mean, what do you consider a distraction? You know what I'm saying? Do you want to win football games? If you can bring Colin in, and if he can win you 4 or 5 games improve your record 4 or 5 games than what you had last year. Why not give it a shot? You get what I'm saying? I think somebody mentioned in the chat that what the Steelers needed a quarterback and who else?
Seattle.
Yes,
Seattle.
okay, Seattle.
Is
So
he?
why not
But,
just
but
why
is
not?
he better than? Is he better than Drew Lock right now?
Yes,
I hadn't seen him in so many years.
I can say I can.
That's
Yeah,
my
you're right.
point
I haven't seen
exactly.
him.
but
That's my
haven't seen
point
him.
exactly.
But you
but
don't know.
That's my point. That's my
I haven't
point.
seen him, but I do know this. I know some quarterbacks who can't throw that have shots, or some quarterbacks who can't run. I know some quarterbacks who can't do either. I know some quarterbacks who can't chew bubblegum. And they have a shot right now in the NFL.
Right.
And
I'm not disagreeing that
no,
he doesn't
and
deserve
I
a shot.
get.
I'm just saying, like, for like
I just don't know where.
exactly. That's my point. Because for one, we haven't seen him in how long, bro? Like, we can't
It's been a
just
while.
automatically just come up here and say he's still gonna be that same guy. You know what I mean? That he made the Super Bowl, or even the last time we saw him after the Super Bowl. We don't even know if he's that same guy. Yeah, he's looked good in the videos I've seen of him. You know what I mean? But how much stock is the NFL team gonna take in that? I wish Seattle would give, or actually,
They should have gave him a shot
Steelers
before.
pretty
I wish
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin would give him a shot.
I would too.
He signed Flores to the linebackers coach. Go ahead and bring in Kaepernick.
That is my next question before we move on.
Go ahead and bring in Kaepernick.
Why would do you think that he would get, or do you think Flores? Well, we see Flores is assistant coach. Do you think Flores is going to be a blackball, like, because he brought up the whole collusion thing with the or the
I put it to you like this. I know what you're saying, but I put it to you like this. You just mentioned a few minutes ago how hard it was for black head coaches to get a second chance, right?
Right.
And that's black head coaches getting a second chance without having any kind of, taking
Lawsuit.
a shot at the league, type situation. So me personally, I don't think he's gonna get a chance, and I hate it because I think he's very deserving of one. But so is Ty Bowles, and we see what it took for him to get his second chance. It
Tom
took
Brady.
his head coach retiring, 6 months before the season started. You know what I mean? So I think Brian Flores has got a real tough battle to get another job.
And
I don't. Go ahead. Pooh.
No, go ahead, because I'm gonna say this and we can move on.
Yeah, well, I would say if it wasn't for Coach Tomlin, he wouldn't be coaching in the
Facts.
NFL.
I agree.
I think honestly,
At least not right now. At least not right now.
Right. I hate to say it, but I think he's done. And I mean, look, he felt like he did what was right. Honestly, I commend him for doing that.
Yeah.
And somebody has to take a step. Somebody has to follow that sword.
Somebody got to be the whistleblower, bro.
Exactly. And if you want change, you gotta. Sometimes extreme measures have to happen. So, hey,
Okay.
he did it.
I forgot my point.
My bad.
we can move on. We can move on though. The next thing we had HBCU. So here we go. Spring game, Grambling State spring game. And I know you were going to try to make it out there. Unfortunately, you weren't able to make it out there. But you did watch the game.
Yeah.
I ended up actually going and watching a little bit of it myself. But how did Grambling State, in your opinion, how did Grambling State look?
It was a defensive battle, man. And I think a lot of the times in spring, that's what you see is you see the defense, being ahead of the offense, and so I think that was another example of that this Saturday with a Grand Spring game. The only touchdown was a pick six, and it was there was some offense had chance. There was a fumble inside the 5-yard line. There was some big plays, and the passing game seems to be a little bit behind the running game so far. I don't know if the offensive line is a step behind or if the defensive line is just that good, but it seemed to be like they seem to be struggling a little bit. But when they went a little up tempo towards the end, the passing game seemed to pick up a little bit. So I think that might be what they're trying to incorporate with the offense. But I think the main thing with them is just being patient, man. They got a young team. They rotating a lot at the quarterback position. They brought in a transfer. This is a whole new staff. It's pretty much the same situation as LSU. You know what I mean? You got a new staff who brought in a whole bunch of new players, so they're trying to just get a feel of everything, and while at the same time trying to install the offense and defense and stuff. So it's a work in progress, but I think they'll be okay this year. And I was really glad to see the turnout that a lot of Graham fam came out and supported the players. So this regime is off to the right start in terms of fan support.
Man, I would say on that point, and man, if LSU had 70,000 people turn out for a spring game, they would lose their mind. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So honestly, Grambling, the Grand fam showing up 70,000 plus, that's very impressive. That's awesome.
All right. So I was going to say something. I'm going to save it for altar call on that.
Okay.
I think I'm going with that, Don. All right. So speaking of spring games, some other spring games that are upcoming. April 9th, you got Alcorn, Delta State, FAMU, Mississippi Valley University, Norfolk State, North Carolina Central University, Southern, and Tennessee State. On April 10th, you got Shaw. On April 22nd, you got Arkansas Pine Bluff. On April 23rd, Alabama State, Bowie, Elizabeth City State, Prairie View, A&M, and South Carolina State. On April 24th, Jackson State, which will be televised on ESPN.
Imagine that.
Right.
Interesting. April 30th, you got Central State and Morgan State. Most of these you probably, outside of Jackson State, you probably won't be able to find, but if you can find it, most likely it'll be on HBCU League Pass. It's a free app on your Apple or Google store. Download it, and as you can see, I've already downloaded it, and you should be able to catch up and watch the games that way.
And that's exactly what I watched the Grambling spring game on yesterday.
All right. So moving on to the next story. It's something that's kind of is happened a while ago, and we haven't talked about it, and I take full blame for that. Brittany Griner and her arrest in Russia. From everything I understand, she's at fault for being in possession of something, of a substance that is over here is probably fully legal. Well, it's legal in areas or however you want to look at it. But no matter your stance on it, hey, she was wrong for this, she was wrong for that. She should not be basically held as a pawn, political pawn. She is a big enough star here that I feel like more should be done. Any thoughts?
Yeah. Man, Trump freaking got LeVar Ball's son, out of what was it, China?
China.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. I mean, Brittany Griner's almost been a month, and they're still, they honestly don't even know where she's at. The fact that this is not headline news is very sad. Very sad. It's honestly, I can't even say it's embarrassing. The fact that she played in Russia,
Mm-hmm.
so they know
That's the only reason. That's the only.
over there.
So I didn't mean to cut you off. The only reason she's over there is because
She's getting paid $1 million to play.
She's getting paid, which she can't get paid here. They're not making it here, so a lot of WNBA players end up going overseas, go to Russia to make that extra money, and that's the only reason she was even there.
Right.
And
then when all the stuff started happening, that was told, this was way before we even knew about her situation.
mm-hmm.
They had like the U.S. Embassy and everybody had already told them, hey, stuff's getting tense, y'all get out, and that's whenever it happened. But I will say this: her family and fiance or whatever came out and basically said that they don't want a bunch of publicity on this because of what Pooh said. They don't want her being used as like this political pawn. You know what I mean? So they appreciate all the support that all the fans, everybody's giving them, but pretty much she said that they don't want her being used as a political pawn. So the more she's in the media and the more they're talking about why isn't he doing, like, why isn't this administration doing this to get her, you know what I mean? The more they're doing all that, the more she's being used as a political pawn. So I do think, like, we saw a video of her going to a court date not too long ago after Russia said that they didn't know where she was at and all that. But we saw a video of her going to a court date and leaving the court date. So she is alive and healthy as far as, the last time we saw and heard her. But my thing is, I don't think that it's fair that we say that this administration isn't doing anything just because it isn't being broadcast, especially when her family asked for a lot of it not to be put in the media.
Well, if let me say, of course, I don't know what Brittany did Brittany Griner come out and say that she didn't want.
She hasn't talked.
Her
didn't
family,
want
her family,
the family
did.
did. Okay, so if I'm in Brittany Griner's role, I want people to talk about the situation. Please save me.
But okay,
Come rescue me.
check this out though. Let me play devil's advocate. Okay,
Yeah,
you're in Russia, right?
yeah.
Okay, you get enough American media making a big deal out of this to where Putin over there in Russia, feels, like you disrespecting him. So now he gives you this extremely long prison sentence for, for you carrying this controlled substance. You know what I mean? Now how are they gonna get you out?
This
See
is
what I'm
the
saying?
U.S. I mean,
But
I understand. Like
she
she's
committed a crime in Russia.
Right.
So
right.
I mean, that, like,
They have their laws. Yeah.
and they could punish her to 100 years or whatever. I'm just making, but you know what I mean. They could do something crazy, and then all of a sudden, then they, you put too much pressure on Putin, and he does something crazy, and now it backfires. So I do get what you're saying, and I do think that they are trying to save her, but I don't think that it's nothing to where you coming out saying something every day about it is going to help the situation.
And let me ask you this: if this was Michael Phelps, would this even be a discussion right now?
Yeah, I think it would be going the exact same way. This is we're talking about a situation where they're a country that's currently at war, bro. Like this, you can't compare this to the LiAngelo Ball and China situation whenever they were at a time of peace. Like this is a little bit different, bro.
But they're not fighting in Russia.
But Russia is at war.
I understand that, but they're not at war with us.
Well, that's kind of so. Basically,
yeah, we finna get off on a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Daniel, they can use this as leverage against.
Yeah, of course they can. Of course,
and I'll leave it at that. And I'm not gonna go too deep into it.
I just think that honestly, and this is like I said before, I think if it was Michael Phelps, not anyone else, but if it was Michael Phelps in particular, I'm just naming a popular figure. I think he would be home. Honestly, I think he'll be back in the U.S.
I disagree because Putin ain't letting it go that easily, bro. He got something to hold over our head now. He ain't letting it go that easy.
I got you.
He can use this to keep us from jumping in and
exactly
defending Ukraine. So
the U.S. cares about that.
All right, this is let's move on to something a little bit more upbeat. All right. So Daniel, we talked about this off mic. Well, you brought this up to the group.
Okay.
What was your LSU moment?
Oh man.
What was it that, what was it, a game? Was it, something? What was your LSU moment to make you a big LSU fan? Dan, you're originally from Louisiana, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I'll let you, and since you brought this up, I'll let you go first.
Sure. I was looking for my Glenn Dorsey jersey, but I can't find it. But I don't know if you guys remember, the Glenn Dorsey high step, him waving his arms and going crazy. But man, I'm a huge fan of Glenn Dorsey, and he's one of the reasons why I started playing ball, just because of his passion. And that 2017 was really, because I've always paid attention to LSU, but watching that team, watching Glenn Dorsey, watching them play really made me fall in love with them. And it was one of the first games I ever went to in Tiger Stadium. So, just watching how much everyone loved, the love that they showed Dorsey, the passion, the love that he showed LSU. it just made me a fan. It made me a fan, and man, I hate missing games on Saturdays. You know, for my family, for my household, you know, LSU football games, it's an event. You know, every Saturday, we try our best to make sure that we don't miss any games. But you know, and I would say this also, you know, going to the Florida LSU Florida game the year that we won the national championship with Joe Burrow was probably one of the best experiences when it comes to football that I've ever been a part of. You know, at the end of the game, seeing everyone doing the Gator chop, I mean, it was epic. It
Yes,
was epic,
sir.
man.
Mhm.
And I mean, that whole stadium, you know, you got 106 plus jumping, vibing, everybody's just happy. You know, that is why I love Tiger Stadium. You know, I'm in Tulsa right now, and I look outside my gate. I got my LSU flag, repping. You know, even through the hard times, you know, I'm a Tiger fan through and through. So yeah, that was my moment.
My the first time I ever remember watching LSU was when All Eyes on Three versus Florida. But I really was too young to kind of understand it. The first game I remember really watching and actually like being glued on every play was the Sugar Bowl win versus Illinois. Then my first time in Tiger Stadium was '03. We lost that game to Florida though. So when I went back in 2019 and we won the Natty that year, I watched them play Florida too. So it was kind of like my revenge. But yeah, my first true LSU moment, I would say, it's gonna be baseball. So I'm gonna kind of switch it up on y'all. But it was College World Series 2000 when that walk off home run.
Mhm.
Uh,
Oh man, it was Tommy Morris.
nah, I wasn't alive for that one, but it was Creasy. When he
Oh,
hit that home run, bro, like man, it just like I was already kind of a football fan and all that, but whenever I saw LSU win and something else, you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh yeah, like I'm an LSU fan now, and then ever since then I just been hooked.
well, I think mine is probably is different from y'all's, just simply because I wasn't born and raised in Louisiana. Um, um, so the first time I can remember even thinking, I always knew there was a LSU, but I think anything of it. Um, but the first time I can remember, actually, acknowledging LSU's, being good was NCAA football, and I used to play with Michael Clayton and Marcus Randall, and I was tearing people up. They couldn't stop me. They couldn't stop me. And then the Bluegrass Miracle happened,
Yes, sir.
and so I was like, okay, okay. And then Jamarcus Russell went to, because he's from Mobile. Jamarcus went to LSU. I was like, okay, check him out. And then it was the game against Oregon State, and I was like, you know what, this is it. This is it. So it was that game. I think there was another game before that. It was the comeback against Florida with Joseph Adai, and it was those moments that I realized, it was like, yeah, it's time. It's time. So yeah, LSU, been an LSU fan ever since. All right, fellas. As we know, we come to that part of the show that we've all grown to love, and doors of the church are open. My bad, we hit y'all with the remix this week. But all right, who's going first tonight?
I go. I go ahead.
All right.
All right. Let the doors of the church be open. Lane Kiffin, please come to the altar.
Get them.
Guys, Lane is a media. I can't say it because my mom is probably watching. But this guy just, man, he lives for attention. And we all know he's pretty salty for not getting the LSU job. But Lane, you're starting to embarrass yourself, right? Everyone know that whenever we won the 2019 national championship, the big thing for us, was the Gertie. Everyone was doing it. People are still doing it now. And the fact that Lane Kiffin is trying to bite off of that moment and actually bring the original creator to Ole Miss is just pathetic. It is pathetic. Lane, you can't come up with anything else to try to get back at us. You have to go back and kind of use our leftovers. It's ridiculous. And it's sad, Lane. You should be embarrassed. You need to go to the NFL because you're not getting another big time head coaching football job in the NCAA. So go sit down, Lane.
Go sit down.
Go sit down.
All right. I'm calling out a familiar person. So NCAA, come back down here before you make it to the back of the church. Turn back around and come back to the front. I called you out week 1 for the refereeing in the NCAA tournament, and you not shouting out Jackson State. You shouted out Howard's women basketball whenever you were salute Coach Reed. But I want to call y'all out for something else. Y'all working with the Congress to try to get a bill passed saying how long an NCAA investigation can last and how far back it can go and what stipulations they can use as part of their investigation and all these kind of things. So basically what y'all are telling us, NCAA, is that y'all know y'all's investigations are full of you know what. And that y'all know they take too long, and that y'all know that basically y'all wouldn't have a case if it wasn't for confidential sources. And on top of that, Mark Emmert comes out today and says that they need to get a well, not today, but he came out a little while ago and said they need to get a uniform policy on NIL. You've had almost 18 months since these states had proposed a bill for NIL to come up with a uniform policy. Why are you waiting for this long to come up with a solution? It sounds like the NCAA is letting everything get screwed up and letting the government come in and save them once again.
All right, so Graham fam, I need y'all to step to the altar. We briefly touched on this when we had Ms. Love on for the HBCU hour, and we talked about it. We understand your concerns with Art Browse. We understand that you even had some people publicly speak out who are Graham alum, talking about that, it's an embarrassment to hire this man with his background. But then you hire someone with similar background, and then the person calling people out is working for one of the, most disingenuous owners, who has a racist team name, who was basically forced to change his team name in the NFL. But let's bring it back to what's going on now. I'm not saying that the offense would have looked better. I'm not saying that the offense would have been clicking and humming. But I'm just saying Art Browse has that experience. Art Browse will have you competing. But you made a choice. You stuck with your choice. You're going to deal with it on your own. All right, fellas. It's almost that time to get up out of here. And we got about 2 minutes left, but it looks like South Carolina's about to take it on the women's side.
Yeah, it's a wrap. It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Up 14. The score right now is 61-47. A minute 58 left in the fourth. Last question for y'all. I know we said it was done. Who you got tomorrow night?
KU.
Yeah, I'm going Kansas too.
I'm gonna ride with Kansas simply because I think that I didn't want Coach K to go out like that. And North Carolina, you messed up the happy story at the end. So
I think it's funny.
North Carolina blew your parlay. That's what the problem was.
we're not gonna talk about.
But hey, I real talk though. I think that Baycott injury gonna be the difference. I don't know how much he gonna be after he rolled his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, fans,
hey, don't forget to like and subscribe.
And we appreciate all y'all for tuning in.
Hey, thank y'all for tuning in, sticking with us for the first live. It won't be the last.
Right.
And on that note,
we are
out. Have a good one.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Twitter at Golden Boot. On Instagram at Golden Boot. On YouTube at The Golden Boot Pod. On Facebook at The Golden Boot Pod.
Golden Boot.